We just finished going through Vicor's 2026 Q2 earnings called Materials, and now we want to share our takeaways. Look, this quarter, a small power company grew revenue almost 27% in a single quarter, signed a 62M licensing deal, and pushed gross margin to 58%. Gorgeous numbers, right? But don't celebrate yet. Because the single most important thing on this whole call wasn't any of those figures. It was one word the CEO blurted out when the analysts cornered him. No. Today, we crack open exactly what Vicor is betting on and whether the story holds. Let's put the scorecard on the table first. The company reported Q2 revenue of 143.4 M, up to 6.9% quarter over quarter, gross margin of 58%, and EPS at 1.40. And here's the line that matters. Management stated that 2026 is the year its innovative products and tech licensing take shape across the industry. Do you hear the weight in that? This used to be a company that sold power modules, one brick at a time. Now it's opened a second lane, collecting license fees. Think of it like a highway toll booth. Your car wants through, you leave the toll. That fresh 60M in licensing deal signed this quarter is the toll booth officially opening for business. I'm telling you, 2 engines flooring it in the same quarter is rare. But hold on, there's a splinter underneath, and we'll dig it out. Let me tell you plainly what this company actually does, or the rest won't land. Think about it. Power runs from the grid into the data center, then into the AI chip, and that last tiny stretch is the hardest part. It has to be stable, clean, and delivered in huge volume, all at once. Vicor is the specialist that owns that final millimeter. It doesn't chase a generic high-volume market. It plays where current density is brutal and nobody else can keep up. It makes money 2 ways. Traditional brick power, 34.3% of Q2 revenue, and advanced products, 65.7% and climbing. The star of the show is vertical power delivery, feeding current straight up into the chip from directly underneath. That line right there is where its next few years live. So why is vertical power delivery such a big deal? Picture the AI chip as a tower that keeps getting taller. The higher it climbs, the more insane the water pressure it demands. The old way parks the pump beside the chip, and power snakes sideways across the board. Long path, high loss, severe noise. Vertical power delivery drops the pump directly beneath the chip and fires straight up. Shortest path, maximum delivery. You measure this with 2 numbers, current gain and current density. The company stated its Gen 2 VPD hits current gain above 40 and up to 5 amps per square millimeter. And the competition. The filing says they're thermal limited to roughly 1 amp per square millimeter. Do the math yourself. 5 versus 1. That's not a step behind, that's a full generation behind. That gap is the castle wall. Now let's split the financials into 2 piles. Pile 1 already banked. Revenue 143.4 up to 6.9% sequentially, up just 1.6% year over year. Why is that yearly number soft? Because last year's quarter carried a big settlement, so the baseline was inflated. The base business isn't weak. Gross margin 58%, up 2 to 80 basis points. Net income 49.8 M, EPS 1.40, and cash of 453.6 M, up about 50 M in 1 quarter. Pile 2 not banked yet. The company guided Q3 revenue up about 10% sequentially and raised the full year 2026 target to over 600 M. A reasonable read is this is real momentum. But guidance is still guidance, not money in the bank, so don't treat it as done. Still, a clean beat and a raise in the same breath. That's a management team showing its hand with confidence. Engine 1 is the advanced product business, and it just lit up. Revenue there grew 45% sequentially to 94.2 M, and the mix jumped to 65.7% of the total. The order book is where it gets juicy. The 1-year backlog rose 26.6 sequentially to 379.7 M, and the book-to-bill ran above 1. In plain English, orders are coming in faster than product is shipping out, so the reservoir keeps filling. The bulls would say this proves AI demand is the real thing. HPC strong, defense and aerospace strong, industrial very strong, and channel shipments up 38.8% year over year. And here's a detail worth circling. The company stressed this backlog surge is almost entirely organic demand, independent of the new licensing. Orders packed this full. Is demand going to be weak? Near term, I don't think so. Engine 2 is that license, but there's a portal you need to see first. The total deal is 6 M, 5 M a quarter in year 1, 5 M a quarter in year 2. Sounds steady, right? The catch is how it's booked. Because of termination clauses, the company recognized 150 M all at once this quarter, which padded Q2 revenue. Next quarter it drops to just 5 M, then climbs back toward 5 M a quarter after that. You see where I'm going. Part of this quarter's shine was borrowed forward. The confirmed roster is multiple OEMs plus 1 major hyperscaler. The company's own point is fair here. Separate the GAAP volatility from the steady cash underneath. I'll say it straight. The direction is right, but do not multiply this quarter's high by 4. Brace for that Q3 dip. Gross margin at 58%, up 280 basis points. Looks great at a glance. But let me put the magnifying glass on it because there's a crack. Strip out the near pure profit royalties and look at the product margin alone. It actually fell about 200 basis points versus the last 2 quarters. Yeah, it's not small. To be fair, the company has a point here. It says Q2 carried a one-time expense to physically move existing equipment in Fab 1 to clear space for new machines, and that hit cost of goods. I half buy that. But here's the other side. If you have to shove old gear aside just to fit new machines, what does that tell you? It tells you Fab 1 is nearly maxed out. The capacity ceiling is already written into this margin line. I'm maybe 70% on that read. Line the rivals up and the picture gets clear. On current density, Vicor's maximum traditional lateral is low around 1 amp per square millimeter, and IVR is forced high against thermal limits. On insertion loss, the real killer, Vicor, is minimal while IVR bleeds a severe 10 to 15%, and it still needs a 1.8 volt bus converter bolted on. To be fair, IVR isn't useless. The case for it is flexibility when the nodes are highly fragmented. That's a real point. But the price of that flexibility is efficiency going out the window. And here's the punchline. The company says competitors are being forced to buy Vicor's own components just to make their IVR boards work. When your rivals have to shop at your store, how deep is that moat? I don't need to spell it out. Management painted the vision huge this time. It says the licensing model is proven, the Gen 2 VPD tech is proven, and it's a highly profitable niche. Then it raised the long-term target, 2.5B in revenue, 70% gross margin, 40% operating margin. Here's our second layer read. So the technology claims come with hard specs behind them, and I give those high marks. But that 2.5B means scaling revenue by 2.5 times off today's base. And notice the thing. To hit that number, the key isn't the technology. The tech is already ready. So what actually blocks it is capacity, the second fab that hasn't been built yet. Beautiful vision. But between a beautiful vision and actually doing it sits concrete and machinery, not a slide. This is the soul-searching page. An analyst asked point blank, can the current fab alone get you to 2.5B? The CEO's answer was one clean word. No. Look at Fab 1 in Andover right now. It's essentially 100% full. So full it can only cherry, pick the strategically valuable orders, and turn the rest away. Fab 2 is supposed to be 2 to 3 times bigger. Sounds mighty. But the location is still down to 2 sites, land not even locked, decision promised in the coming weeks. Let me say the risk plainly. Site selection, groundbreaking, ramp. Any single link that jams pushes the whole 2.5B path back. And they plan a phased build to avoid premature depreciation, which also tests their capex discipline. Great business, but a pile of variables. So how much can you trust this management? Let me weigh both pans. The honest side. Last quarter's promised revenue raise landed, the licensing cash came in, and the backlog really is growing. Strong on delivery, credit given. The murky side. The moment you ask who the customers are, it goes silent. Analyst channel checks name Avago, Google AMD, and Cerebras as the key drivers. And management dodges every customer identity question, citing secrecy. In fairness, NDAs are standard in semis, so I won't hang them for it. But it does leave outsiders like us unable to verify how dependent it is on any single big customer. That blind spot, you have to fold it into the risk yourself. Read the whole Q&A and the fire concentrated on 3 spots, and management's confidence was clearly different on each. On VPD tech and customer rollout, green light, direct and confident, it confirmed the 3 amp baseline is achieved, pushing to 5 amps by late 2026 into early 2027. Mass production in the second half of 2027. On Fab 2 and the 2.5B path yellow light, confident but incomplete. It flat out admitted it needs a factory 2 to 3 times bigger, but the crucial site pick is still unresolved. On the royalty mix at 2.5B scale, red light, dodged and opaque. It clarified the deal structure, but completely evaded what portion of that 2.5B is royalties. Read the gap between those 3 tones, and you can feel where it's solid and where it's still guessing. Let me hang this quarter's risks on the wall as 4 dials. The reddest one, the capacity ceiling. The entire 2.5B growth story rests on a fab that isn't built, and any delay is instantly fatal to the timeline. Highest threat, second high. J royalty lumpiness, a 50M this quarter, the 500M the next. The accounting swings EPS hard, so do not extrapolate a single quarter high. Third, medium. The product margin dark current. That roughly 200 basis point X royalty drop is called one time, but it needs 2 clean quarters to prove it. Fourth, also medium. Opaque concentration. With customer names hidden, if one big client cuts orders, that tail risk is something we simply can't size. 4 dials. Keep your eyes on all 4. Pull back a level and look at what Vicor is really doing. Break it into an equation. The 5-to-1 generational tech gap plus the ITC patent exclusion power in its hands, together those two turn lethal. The bulls would say AI's demand for current density is doubling, hyperscalers and OEMs can't route around the patents, and the only legal path left is to pay the license. That makes it the toll booth of the whole AI power industry. If that plays out, winning means near monopoly. But let me spell out the losing conditions too. 1. Capacity can't keep up and customers get desperate enough to find a workaround. 2. The patent wall gets breached. The moat is deep, no question. But this is ultimately a race between the moat and the clock. So what do you actually watch from here? The company lays out 5 checkpoints and I track every one. 1. Fab 2 groundbreaking. Does that coming week's promise turn into real ground broken? First domino for the 2.5B. 2. Hyperscaler VPD adoption. Can it push to 5 amps per square millimeter by early 2027 and lock OEM design wins in production systems? 3. Product margin recovery. Do Q3 and Q4 X royalty margins rebound and prove the one-time move story? 4. New licensing signatures, more OEM and hyperscaler deals, plus the 2027 ITC patent case marching forward. 5. Absorbing the Q3 gap. Can core product revenue hold that near 10% sequential guide while the royalty drops on ton M? Nail those 5 and it can't hide the ball. Alright, last thing, radar always leaves you a light. On this one I'm calling yellow. Don't get me wrong, deep tech mode, a fully loaded order book, licensing starting to collect rent, the fundamentals are flat out impressive, and the bones of a green light are there. Where it sticks is 2 things. 1, the price. A beat and raise this clean usually means the good news is already baked into the stock. 2, and this is the real one, the whole 2.5B dream is riding on a second fab that hasn't broken ground. Until that variable lands, I won't flip to green. But I'll say it up front. If they lock the Fab 2 site in the coming weeks and the product margin rebounds like they promised, I flip to green and you heard it here first. If you like this kind of analysis, the kind that does not ride the market's mood and stays locked on industry data and hard logic, please subscribe to Value Stock Radar, hit the bell, like and share. Your support is what keeps us digging through the financials and hunting down quality names. This is Value Stock Radar. See you next time.